let's look at this thing real quick. All right, so let's get into it. SSA leaning into e-signatures as a way to cut mountains of mail. Now, we're going to be talking about e-signatures, then we're going to be going into basically the future of what medical treatment for the disabled will be, how that pulls into basically the digital dollar, and how everything is going into a digitized form, what that will ultimately mean for the disabled. Let's get into it. So this is an article, let's see, Jason Miller at WFED wrote it September 4th, 2024, very fresh. Here we go. The Social Security Administration receives about 30 million letters and packages from the Postal Service each year with forms and evidence from citizens applying for service. It is a very true fact that the SSA pays for a significant chunk of the USPS service that keeps that USPS rolling. Now, each parcel takes about 4 minutes to open, scan, and process. If you do the math, SSA employees are taking 120 million minutes or 2 million person hours opening up mail. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, they have a lot of things where basically they have machines that go ahead and have auto scan and they have scanners and barcodes. So I'm not sure exactly how accurate that is, but as a general overview, yeah, the SSA uses way too much of this paper stuff and not enough of the email stuff. Okay, SSA is about to take a big bite out of that time and effort by implementing e-signatures capabilities for more than 30 forms and removing the signature requirement altogether for 13 forms. And for SSA, this is just the beginning. So back in the day when I started working with the firm, e-signatures were not allowed with the SSA. They didn't want them. They wanted anything to do with them. If you had an e-signature on something, they would send it back to you, say, no, we need a real, what they called wet signature. Okay, cool. Now, it's clear we needed to move on from that world, said Betsy Bowman, Social Security Chief Transformation Officer, in an exclusive interview with Federal News Network. Our customers have been telling us we want to be able to do things electronically. We need better ways to communicate with the Social Security Administration. This is one of a number of areas where we're really focused on achieving a better communication with our customers. Now, the SSA says 90% of the most commonly used forms by its customers now will offer new e-signature capability. Okay, so Bauman, who runs the SSA's customer experience team, said those 13 forms that no longer require signatures means a reduction by over 1 million forms a year submitted by mail by citizens. That's if people use them, right? There's going to be a whole conversion process, people switching over, etc. SSA says the forms that no longer require signature include the medical source opinion of patient's capability to manage benefits, SSA 787, which has a total annual volume of 768,000. The letter to employer requesting wage information, SSA L4201, which has an annual volume of 133,000, and request for reconsideration / disability cessation, the thing you guys don't want to see, which is a CDR form, right to appear, form SSA 789, which has an annual volume of 49,000. They've already done this for the 827. By the way, the 827 is the HIPAA. That's like the most used form. In my opinion. There might have one that's more, but I doubt it. Additionally, SSA is letting citizens upload more than 70 types of evidence, which also will cut back on the paper forms that need to be mailed. This is really part of a bigger move to say we have to meet people where they are, and we have to really let people transact business with us electronically. Bowman said these are the big moves that are really intended to both meet the executive order on customer experience, but more importantly, it's really meant to make life easier for our customers and for our frontline employees. So here's kind of the basic things. Customers' journeys found pain points. Okay. Bowman said the SSA's path to e-signatures, removing the need for signatures altogether, started several years ago, but came to the forefront during the pandemic. And that's because the SSA, for a couple of things, overpayments, basically cost, were dragged in front of Congress, specifically the senators. She said there were pockets of efforts to implement digital signatures across the agency over the years that never came together. Part of what it took is good project management, frankly, to separate the tasks out and make sure that we're clear, Bowman said. She goes on with a more, I just want to get to the bottom line of this thing so you guys understand what's going on, because we have a bunch of videos to cover tonight. In the past, SSA lawyers wanted wet signatures to protect the agency against any threat of lawsuits or complaints, right? That was the past. That's how they did it. The SSA attorneys wanted that. And I remember that. I remember sending in an e-signature, and boy, they were pissed. But no, they're totally flipping the other way. BK Dan, thank you for the $5 donation. I super appreciate that. BK Dan said digital dollars. I blame debit cards for really kickstarting that. So we're going to go into basically the digital dollar soon, and we're going to be going into digital transformation of the disabled. It's kind of a scary topic, but it is absolutely the direction that everything is going. But this is kind of a baby step. if you will, for e-signatures. The SSA has always lagged behind. They've been technologically stunted because a lot of the individuals that are doing this stuff in the agency, they were older, they didn't want to see change, and they were accustomed to the paper format that they were always using. So from that perspective, it just wasn't getting the kick in the butt. Now they have younger leaders, it's moving forward, it's going to go ahead and speed the process up. All right, SSA already seeing 80% satisfaction rate. A big part of the Office of Transformation's mission is to analyze risks and push for changes where the agency can manage and mitigate those challenges. Bowman said her team brought all the stakeholders together to talk about the ramifications of removing signatures. Oftentimes in the past, the only consideration from agency leaders was what would happen if the citizen didn't sign the form, but not what if SSA removed the requirement and how that would impact the citizen and agency employee. Quote, now we really were looking at the balance of those things and saying, if it's a low risk to have it unsigned and it's going to make it easier on millions of forms, let's do that. That was a really big example of the process approach that was different than what SSA has done, as far as I know, anytime in the past. Now, they go forward and talk about technology and the basics and things like that. But I want to point out to you something specifically with this situation, okay? E-signatures, they're going to happen. Digital dollar, it's going to happen. Now, the more important part, the thing that you guys really should be thinking about, is digital medical communication. All right, so let's go through the basics, right? Digital signature, it's where you can sign something online. You click a button, you call the SSA, they auto sign it for you with your, with your actual voice saying, I agree to sign it. Boom, digital signature, you're good, all done. That's a baby step. They are going in that direction. The next thing you're going to see is a digital dollar. The digital dollar will be distributed to you just like how it normally is. You guys, the SSIs, the SSDIs, the retired people, disabled adult child, widows, spousal benefits, you guys are prime candidates for them to test out the digital dollar system on, and nothing really will change for you other than you will see your dollar devalue faster. Actual paper money will go up in worth, right? Your digital dollar will go down in worth. You'll be able to buy less and less and less until these benefits basically become a moot point and everybody has to work until they pass away. That's just the reality of where it's going. Here's the next thing, though, that will likely come. Digital medical communications. So you guys know that a lot of people already have, implanted devices that will go ahead and transmit information out of the body. And the big thing that they had to do was go ahead and put some sort of digital lock on that information because at the end of the day, you got it. Unfortunately, people were able to hack some of those things. Like people would have things making their heart work. People could hack them because they didn't have a password on them. So ultimately, what was occurring as a result of this, unfortunately, is that they had to learn how to protect the actual medical devices that are in the body. Now, some of you have medical devices of the skin or over the skin, which is basically some sort of Apple Watch. And that will go ahead and read your information for your heart rate. It will go ahead and go through the details as to things and abnormalities that it realizes with your health. What happens is we're now getting into the chip implant, existence, right? The chip implant situation. In the future of Social Security benefits, 5 to 10 years down the line, you're going to see people basically being in a chip implant situation. It won't just be for larger things where they have to send up signals because they have to check on your heart, check on the flow, see what's going on, see what your brain is doing. It'll be smaller stuff. But what will happen is they'll go ahead. Yeah, I'll be doing calls tonight after 2 more videos. But what will happen is this. Basically, you will have disabled people who have a chip implanted in them, which is delivering information real time to some medical provider that they, are signed up with. And so as a result with that, people will be able to sign up as, through Medicare to have the chip implanted. And then we'll go ahead and, check on their vitals. And then as time progresses, it will do more. It will be able to tell you when cellular, when cells are, multiplying, whether or not they're multiplying in a cancerous way. It'll be able to tell you, whether or not you're eating too much. It'll be able to tell you whether or not you are emotionally stable, whether or not you're happy or sad, all that stuff. So the reality to this is that people are really worried about the digital dollar. And yeah, that's going to suck because you're going to have less money and the money's just going to keep getting, it's going to devalue very quickly. Because the US dollar it's no chance. Everybody tells me like if Trump gets in, that Trump's going to be the one that sets it straight and fixes the economy. Certainly a more economy conscious person than Harris, but I gotta tell you, like, we're not in a position as an economy, as America, to really succeed unless we pull World War III. Because the bottom line, just to be fair, is that unfortunately, the way I see it, we're not going to be able to go ahead and get our reserve currency to be used and trusted more and more and more than it ever has been. So as a result of that, I think the big problem here, just to be fair, is as a result of all this stuff, is that unfortunately, I think at the end of the day, the digital dollar is going to happen as you're just going to see a continuous decrease in the value of that dollar. Now, with that said, when the disabled have some sort of digital technology actually put in them, okay, then the SSA is going to be able to buy essentially all of your data for what your body is telling them. So let's say that if you go and potentially go to an examination, that chip could tell if you were lying. That chip could tell if you purposely took too much of your medication. That chip could tell if you didn't take your medication or haven't been taking your medication. That chip could tell them if you, digitally, GPS wise moved to a different area or went boating or went motorcycling or whatever. It's going to significantly cut down on the wiggle room when it comes to people enjoying their life without having this constant government overview of them. And to be fair, the government is working very, very hard to make sure into the future that there's not a lot of abuse of the disability system because it's incredibly expensive. Much of it, though, you've already paid for, so it is there to that degree. However, the SSI individuals who haven't paid for it, the bottom line with that situation is that with the new hundreds of thousands of immigrants that are going on to SSI for the 7-year period, that's going to throw off basically general business income, and you're going to be seeing potentially more and more SSI people on this program. So, I can see fraud occurring there with, that whole situation. But point is, I think the real thing you have to be considering is that the SSA is waking up quickly. They're saying we need all this new stuff. We need to transform. We need to have modern tech. What's happening is that the way people have been found disabled is going to change in the future. You don't have those people who were like found disabled 15 years ago spouting off, all you have to do is this. And if you're really, really disabled, you'll be found disabled. Those people don't exist anymore. Well, they don't exist much anymore. You'll still get somebody on their high horse riding, their soapbox saying, I'm super disabled. And, then you look at their medical evidence and you're like, not even close, not even close. A lot of people found disabled 15, 20 years ago, at their current state now of how they were back then, wouldn't be found disabled because the standards are much, much more difficult. The culture's much more difficult to get an approval. In the future, though, 10, 15 years down the line from now, you can expect that it will be significantly, even more so, difficult to be found disabled because they'll be moving into chip technologies that can test things. So, for example, if you had a chip in you, right, as the result of the medical provider having to perform service on you. And remember, you're still sitting there thinking, there's no way that they will put a chip in me. And that's fine. You just won't be able to get the medical service that they require for you to get the benefits. That's how they'll play the game. They'll require that you do certain things to validate what's actually going on. And the chip will be part of the objective evidence that they use. So the idea here is that if you have a chip in your body, they'll be able to gauge how much pain you have realistically as a comparison point. They'll be able to gauge, range of motion limitation with your body based on what you can actually do. They'll be able to gauge, what your brain is doing with depression, PTSD, anxiety, etc. They'll be able to gauge exactly where your body is feeling pain, because your brain is the perfect chip to go ahead and tell them tons and tons of analytical information. So as a result of that, that's the reality. That's the situation. So, and just kind of keeping all that in mind, understanding that the bottom line here is this: disability. And we talked about this in a prior video, and it made a lot of people upset. And I got some mean phone calls from it too. But disability was set up as a program. Yeah, they rah as politicians. The politicians go, "We want to save and help the disabled." Rah 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 rah. They do that. Oh, we promise, even though legally there's no way that they can promise, right? We are going to give you, and then illegally there's no way. There's no way to sue them to actually get those things. So, a lot of these programs are built off of a politician's promise and judges, demand that you can't actually sue that group, so summary judgment kind of gig. So the reality is this: disability benefits were put in place and have continued to be in place, to make sure that the disabled are removed, right, from the working classes, actual production goals, achievements, needs, right? So the working class, they want them to be here and working and being efficient, not having to take care of the disabled. So they say, okay, disabled, we're going to give you a check, but you have to go over there, buy stuff with the check, keep feeding the economy, go for it. But we need you to stay away from those who are working. And that's the whole idea there. The idea is that basically the disabled are not slowing down those who are working. Right. So, like, the classic example of that is you've got two cars, right? You got a disabled person driving their car, and, basically you have somebody who has to work. The government wants you to pull over or basically get out of the way so that the person can get to work and get to work, because the disabled have all day. The person has to get to work. They got to get to work immediately. And the reason for that is that if those workers continue to work, make money, then they're paying taxes. And the government wants tax money. That's what the government wants. It wants its tax money. So the whole idea there is, if workers have to take care of the disabled, right? They've got to take care of their family members because their family members don't have enough money, and the workers are slowing down and they're stressed and they're not as efficient. Then all of a sudden, those workers essentially are not able to achieve those higher levels. If they're not able to achieve those higher levels, you guessed it, then the government doesn't get as much tax money, and the government only wants tax money. So giving the disabled a check and making them pay for it, it removes them over here so that the workers can continue to work. So the bottom line is, from what I'm seeing with the evolution of how things are going, the reality of this is that you will see digital signatures for all documents. You will see, setups where the phone will be able to go ahead and collect information from you just by you talking into it, filling out a form, literally by you talking into it, right? If you want to fill out a disability application in the future, you'll just talk into the phone. Okay, that'll be the future of it. Then they'll head off to basically digital dollarization, which is where you get digital dollars, which, you guys already get. That's what, you pretty much already get that. You're not making income, most of you. You don't have a side job. Some of you do, but either way, the digital dollar, you'll just receive your benefits. And instead of being a traditional digital dollar, it'll be the new Fed coin, right? That'll be the thing. Now, once it transitions from that, then you'll start seeing medical providers doing treatment, and part of that treatment will require you to put a chip in your skin for it to monitor how the treatment is going. And that will monitor whether or not you're taking the pills, how much pain you're actually feeling, what your heart is doing, whether or not your lungs are doing, proper with the amount of air they're taking and conversion to get it to the cells, what your brain is doing, how much pain, how much depression, all of those things. Once you get to that point, and that's not far off, it's not far off. Trust me, once the medical field has the technology to read you, okay, let me put it to you this way, because a lot of you guys aren't probably getting why this is going to be absolutely, definitively used by the medical field. Around 2000, I don't know. Well, let me see. Hold on, I can actually look this up. Hold on, let me check on this real quick. Okay, so let's see. The United States began requiring merchants to accept EMV chip cards on October 1st. No, that's not it. Let me see. Hold on. Let me find. I think it's like OBD1, OBD port. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, California Air Resource Board made the first push to standardize OBD systems in 1991, when they mandated OBD capability in all of the cars. The goal, blah, blah, blah. All right, fine. OBD2 came out in 1996. All right, what is OBD? OBD is a little slot in your car, usually under the driver's, wheel, where you can plug in a device, chip reader, that will read what the car is doing. Okay, all the way back to 1991, California presented this. Cool. However, in order to do that with, basically a human, you have to hook them up to a machine, put sensors on them, and then, now it was originally you had to stay there. Now you got a thing that stays with you, or it's in your body or whatever. The future of that is that you will have a chip specifically in your body that is Bluetoothing information direct to a cloud, direct to your doctor. All that information is going to be able to be read by the Social Security Administration when they submit the 827 HIPAA to them, and that will tell them how much of a bullshit artist you actually are. That is the future of this. I would say that's probably around 7 to 10 years away that you're going to start seeing that, being brought into existence. A lot of the same tactics that were used with, the COVID vaccine will be used with that same industry. The doctors will be paid to fully support it. as basically a need to fully develop a case file. Because remember, if they don't have that evidence, like once it's established, you won't have a fully developed case file. It would just be medical opinion given by a doctor based off of what another machine maybe said. They're going to become hyper reliant on those chips. So the thing is this, like, I think the numbers for how many people are actually found disabled or get to stay on disability will plummet at that point, because you'll have a lot of people who have been disabled, 15 years ago, and they're just not impaired today. Like, they're not impaired anywhere near the severity level that they were back in the day, or they're impaired at the same severity level. And the culture will change. The laws won't, because those same old rules apply to them, but the culture will change enough where potentially the SSA could say, well, even under the old rules, we're going to deny you. Now, the VA has protections. You have your benefits at a certain level after 10 years or 20 years. They're not allowed to go ahead and change it. The SSA doesn't have that. They have CDRs. They can continue to repetitively do CDRs. I foresee the future of humans that are seeking disability benefits, or even have them, to have to go through the reality that these are not benefits for life. A lot of people right now are going through that mentality switch now. In fact, around 10 years ago when I started this channel, I said the main changes that you're going to be seeing with Social Security disability benefits is that people are going to be, going mentally from the reality that they were found disabled. Yay, the check is amazing. Yay, it's enough money. Yay, everything's great. It's my lifelong, monthly check. People don't see it that way anymore, right? The reality is that now they know, they're fully aware that this is not a lifelong check, right? This is a check until basically something happens, the SSA deems them not disabled, and then they lose their money. What's interesting about this is that the SSA is just now starting to look at changing rules about offboarding. So one of the things that I need to make a video about are all of the rule changes that they're doing about offboarding people from disability benefits. It used to be like, okay, well, we don't think you're disabled anymore. You have 10 days to respond. If you don't respond within 10 days, we're cutting off your benefits. Go F yourself and have a good day. You can go ahead and appeal it if you want. That's what it really was. Well, still is. But, the bottom line is that's changing. The offboarding off of the disability benefit program is changing because they know they're going to be kicking a lot of people off of disability benefits, and they need to have like a 6-month roll down where the person can go get a certification in something, or go get educated in something, or have enough time to go get, more medical evidence in a particular way to help support the claim that they're still the disabled person that which they claim they are. Okay. And these are all scary things. It's scary things for the disabled, because a disabled person usually has stress on their head because they're disabled to begin with, but also because, a lot of disabled people are starting to wake up to the reality that this system that they've relied on is not reliable. That's like, you can just put it many ways that you want, but it's just not reliable. Let me give you an example. When I used to work way back in the day for Mr. Schwartz, right? Longest practicing disability attorney ever, right? He retired, literally longest practicing disability attorney ever. And bottom line is this, he told me about the golden era of disability, which was kind of like at the same time it is that like whole Bender and Bender thing before that all fell apart, because they just spent too much money on TV ads. And they actually just, they were bought by an investment group that essentially was not very happy because they just couldn't pay for all of the massive amount of ads that they put on TV. They advertised too much. Like, it was a model. Then there was an issue with the red dotting, blah, blah, blah. But we're not going to go into that because we just don't need to. But the whole thing here is this. In the future, with this whole program, this whole system, they want to make sure that there are fewer and fewer and fewer and fewer disabled people, because they want to take the trust fund from the SSDI trust fund, right? And they want to move all of the money into the one account of all of the, basically Social Security trust funds. They want to do that because then retirement will last longer. Now, think about it for a moment. What happens if there's not enough retirement money for all the retired? Well, retired money is promised once they get to a certain age if they have 40 quarters of coverage. That's promised. They're stuck with that, right? They're promised that. Well, technically, they're not really promised that. You have the 1937 ruling from the Supreme Court. Like, if you do something that America doesn't like, they can literally take your retirement benefits away. But point is this. When you become a certain age, 62 or up, you can go ahead if you have 40 quarters to go and get your retirement benefits. However, for SSDI benefits, regular disability benefits, you are not promised, which is still the wrong word to use, and I realize that, you're not definitively going to get, which is still, again, the wrong word, those disability benefits, because you could get a judge with a very, very low passage rate, very, very low passage rate. And that judge with a very, very low passage rate could say, no, you're not disabled. And the judges consistently are becoming lower and lower and lower passage rate. You go way back, they were in the 60, 70 percentile. Now we're into the low 40s. So what's happening is, just to understand this whole thing, is that into the future, okay, the government wants to have fewer people on SSDI benefits. It means they have to spend less on the SSA to process all that stuff, less on the SSA to continuously administer all that stuff. And also, they want to take all that SSDI money and move it into the retirement trust fund so that it can be used for the retirement benefits. That's their goal. If they can pull that off, right, if they can legislate that, then they're going to mass try to reduce the amount of disabled that are actually receiving. And that's 10, 15 years away that they'll play that chip. All right. So here's what you need to keep in mind with this. The SSA is taking a baby step, right? The e-signatures, baby step. But the Office of Transformation, the transformation of this thing is, first, they make it easy for the paperwork to go away, make everything digital. Then you go to the digital dollar, easier to track. They're going to know exactly what you're spending your money on. You guys ever think about that? The whole digital dollar thing, the Fed coin, right? All of a sudden, you're getting these digital dollars and you're a disabled person. And all of a sudden, you know what I mean? Your kid borrows your card and goes out and buys a skateboard. Your kid goes out and maybe goes on a vacation somewhere on your money, right? On your disability check. Or you go on a vacation. All of a sudden, they're going to know. Because each of those dollars, so I think, we have a little internet problem there. All right, so now you guys understand the main functions of this. I can see actually my internet cable isn't plugged in for this one, so I'll do it for the next video. I'm going to do the next video. The next video is about what China is doing with Social Security benefits. Please remember to like. Please remember to subscribe. I will catch you guys a little bit later. I hope all is well, and we'll go from there. I will see you all at the next video, and I will go ahead and basically put in the chat section the actual little URL that you can use. Now, with that said, keeping all of that in mind, please remember to go ahead and like, subscribe, head to Google, type in Disability Resolution Law Firm. Again, Disability Resolution Law Firm. Throw some stars up there. I always like that. And then also, I go live on Mondays and Thursdays. We'll be live tonight where I answer questions for free. Final thing is, if you want to hire me for an hour, run hearing questions with you, talk about your transition into disability, or go over a tough situation they're having, that's fine. The mini contract is below. I will catch you at the next video shortly. The next one is about what China is doing with America's Social Security benefits. Thank you so much. I'll see you soon. All right. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.